Hey everyone, how you doing? Welcome back to Characters Explained, a series where I cover characters from the game Battle for Neighborville. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a second look at everybody's favorite rump shaker, Engineer. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So to start out this video, some context on Engineer's history in this franchise would be nice to have for his BFN appearance. And yeah, he's been through a lot. His first appearance in the franchise was in Garden Warfare 1, where his kit was almost completely different compared to BFN's. He even had a drone here, which is pretty crazy to think about. Garden Warfare 2 removed that drone, but instead gave him a turret that he could actually control. So let's just say that BFN NG is basically a different character. Oh, but what about his appearance in Heroes? Yeah, what about it? Moving on. Next we'll cover his basic stats, so let's dive into them. Engineer has 125 HP, which interestingly enough, ties him with Wizard for being the tankiest support in the game. Pretty interesting. As for his primary, it's called the Concrete Launcher, and it deals 12.8 splash damage, with the direct hit damage being 37.8. His projectiles also have a unique property where they bounce 3 times before exploding. This makes his primary one of the most unique weapons in the game, and it's pretty neat to see. His ammo count is 10, and his rate of fire is 90. So Engineer is a pretty unique character to say the very least. And with that being said, his abilities match up with that too, so let's cover these next. Up first is Bullhorn Swarm, which makes Engineer throw out a pile of sonic mines on the ground that chase enemies and briefly stun them. Now, when I say they briefly stun enemies, I mean it. The stun time for each individual mine is 0.35 seconds, and only 12 mines are deployed, so it'll be painful if you get caught directly, but it's still not that much time. The mines also only have 10 HP and a lifetime duration of 15 seconds. So yeah, overall the ability is good, but very meh at the same time. Next up is Heavy Helper, which is an automatic turret that buffs zombies who stand next to it. So we need to split up this ability's perks into 2 sections. One for the turret itself, and the other for the buffs it provides. For the turret itself, this thing deals 3.96 damage per shot, with having a rate of fire of 550. Now, if that sounds insane, it's because it kind of is. But the turret itself doesn't have much range, and it only has 100 HP as well, so it gets balanced out. Now, as for the buffs it provides, it gives any zombie standing within a 7.5 meter radius a rate of fire buff of 1.25 times, a charge time scale buff of 0.5, and an ammo replenish buff of 5. This means that Engineer himself can shoot indefinitely while standing next to the turret. This also allows other characters to fire much more too, like 80s and All-Star, and it even works on Brainium, which is pretty stupid, but whatever. Overall, this ability is kind of disgusting, and this is basically the core part of Engineer support for the zombie team. Finally, we have Double Time, which is a placeable pad that boosts the speed of any zombie that walks on it 1.5 times for 2.5 seconds. The pad itself has 50 HP, and that's all she wrote. You know, for as complex as the first 2 abilities might be, it does seem weird that this one is actually really simple. Strange, but effective regardless. So that is Engineer's basic kit. Overall, he's a pretty strong character. And with that being said, next we'll get into his upgrades, so let's cover those now. So Engineer's upgrades are a pretty unique bunch, as there's actually quite a few here that I would consider to be very solid picks. And to show you what I mean, we'll just get right into them. Starting with his base upgrades, first up is a duo of Seismic and Hydraulics. The reason why I'm bundling both of these together is because they are virtually at the same level of usability, which is minimal. Seismic makes your sprint knock away enemies, and Hydraulics gives you an increased jump height while sprinting. Neither upgrade is particularly useful, but I think that Hydraulics is consistently better in most situations. Sort of. I'll also go ahead and bundle up his 2 primary upgrades, since these are also pretty similar. Rubber makes your projectiles bounce 5 times more than they could before, while also losing more momentum overall, and Breakthrough increases the launch speed of your projectiles by 62.5%. If you asked me which one is better, I would personally say Rubber for the sole reason that it's easier to camp with. but that's boring, so I instead recommend using Breakthrough, as that encourages a much more aggressive playstyle. With those out of the way, next we'll move on to the ability upgrades, and Bullhorn Swarms are first. Reinforced is the less expensive of the two, and it makes your mines heal your heavy helper whenever they make contact with an enemy. Yeah, I don't think I need to say anything here, really. This is gimmicky as frick. I don't recommend this one, seriously. And as for Dispersion, this upgrade makes your mines shoot further out when they're launched. There's not much else to this one, but it also has the chance to mess you up on single targets, so this upgrade's iffy too. Next up are the Heavy Helper upgrades, and Progress Report is first. This upgrade makes it so that any enemy hit by your turret is trackable for 6 seconds by you and your teammates. This can be good in very specific situations, but it's honestly too niche to be useful outside of most maps. As for Signal Lamp, this upgrade increases the range of your turret's combat buff by 20%, which is honestly a lot better than it sounds. This actually allows you to free up some leg room when you're sitting next to your turret, and for that alone, I'd say this upgrade is pretty good. Finally, we have the Double Time upgrades, and these ones are actually pretty cool. Turbocharge is up first, and this upgrade increases the duration of the speed boost you get from the pad by 40%, while also giving a knockback effect to any enemy you touch while the boost is active. For such a simple upgrade, it's honestly not half bad. And I feel even more positive towards the final upgrade too, which is Rally the Troops. This upgrade reduces the cooldown on all of your abilities by 6 seconds over the course of 3 seconds for every time a teammate steps on a pad. Now, it does have a 2-second cooldown between every reduction, but that is still making it incredibly easy for you to quickly reduce your cooldowns overall, and that's awesome. This is debatably NG's most underrated upgrade. It's really good. So that is all of Engineer's upgrades. Overall, he has a pretty decent selection here, and that opens the floodgates for some pretty fun builds, so let's get into some of the example ones that I made. First up is my own personal build using Critical Blow, Rubber, and Rally the Troops. Even if my turret breaks, or I frick up my pad placements, I can still get them back pretty quickly, and that's just nice. Next up is a build buff using Signal Lamp, Turbocharge, and Reinforced. I'll admit, it's not ideal for a whole lot of situations, but frankly, I just wanted to make Reinforced work, and I did. Finally, we have what I would like to call a Founder's Classic build, using Speedy, Hydraulics, and Seismic. Take a wild guess at what you're going to be doing with this build most of the time. I'll wait, take your time. And with all of those things covered, I think it's about time I give my own personal thoughts on this character. And to be completely honest, I really like Engineer. He's a character that gets a lot of criticism for his campier side, but that doesn't really change my personal opinion on him. He's still a lot of fun, especially if you know how to play him. And with that being said, I'm going to be ending this video here. Thank you all so much for watching until the end, I really do appreciate it. And let me know, how do you feel about Engineer in BFN? Do you think he's good, or do you think he's on the mediocre side of things? Tell me your thoughts and more in the comments down below. And if you're new around here and you like what you saw, then maybe consider subscribing too. It helps me out a ton. Now, as for me, I've got some spamming of my own to do, so I'll see you guys on my next video. Peace.